Stop recording. I think I'm recording. I think we're good. Okay, I have tea. I have customers. All right, let's get underway then. Welcome everybody. I'm Greg Wilkins. I'm the handicapper at the club, and I've done a lot of the training courses at the club. This is a new training course. It's been inspired, but we had a couple of incidents. We've always had the occasional incident, and we just had a conversation of what can we do to try and encourage some safe sailing. So we've come up with this course. It's very much a two-way course. It's going to start off with a presentation from me, where I'm going to try and give you the basis of what I think about safe tactical sailing. And the idea is to dispel the if you're not rubbing, you're not racing idea. The fact that some people say that if unless you're bumping together, you're not really going fast. It actually can be more often than not that the fastest way around the racetrack is the safest way around the racetrack. So what I'm going to, it's not always the case, but what I'm going to try and point out is if you're thinking ahead and coming up with the right sort of safe plans, it can actually also not only be safe, but it can be fast and get you winning races. And it's a good way of getting around the racetrack. So the bit I'm going to focus on is planning. We have two boats that are coming together in close quarters. CQB, I'll call it sometimes, close quarters battle.
Did you share screen as you recorded, or just you?
It's recording my whole screen, so it's getting, it should be getting me, it should be getting everything. Okay. It was the test that I did, but who knows? I've only got 40 years of computer experience. I'm probably going to screw up the sort of things.
What you see is what you usually get.
Sorry? Oh, I'm just recording the screen, so.
That's what I mean. So if you refer to the diagram, if you want it in the recording, then tilt the camera to see the screen.
No. It's recording. Not this camera. It's recording the screen of the computer.
Okay.
So whatever's on the computer, you should get the mouse moving around and stuff like that.
Okay.
All right. So what's the plan? If you're in this sort of situation, two boats come together, you should start be thinking of a plan. You really don't want to be one of the people who think indecision is the key to flexibility. I like that expression, but it really shouldn't apply here. By the time you're in this sort of situation, you really should have a plan. In fact, this is too late to have a plan. You've got to have a plan, and by the time boats are in this sort of close quarters, you should have had a plan already. You should have, not only should you have had one plan, you probably should have had a plan B, plan A and plan B. Okay, this is going to cover up some of my stuff. I'm going to move myself out the corner here, and then I'll shuffle over there. There we go. Oh, look at that. That'll work. That'll work. So before you get into close quarters, you want to have a plan of what I'm going to do if I'm getting into the close quarters with this boat here, and if that doesn't work, what's my exit strategy? What's my plan B? So you're thinking that before you get together. So I've moved the boats back a little bit. In reality, you probably should have planned before they're that close, but my slides are only so big, and if I put them in the bottom corner, you couldn't see them. You get the idea. Before you're in close contact is when you want to have a plan. So the first thing when you're coming up with a plan is, do you really actually need to close with another boat? It's too often you see another boat, you're on starboard, they're on port, and you get the mindset, oh, we're jousting. Okay, can I win this competition here? Can I get up and over them? Can I cross them? Can I force them to attack? And what you don't realise that in this situation, one of you is going the wrong way. The wind's never perfect. The wind's going to be biased one way or the other. If you're crossing another boat or coming into close things, one of you is lifted and one of you is not. One of you is going the wrong way. So you really, have the first question you should ask yourself when you see that, oh, there's a boat coming towards me, before you start saying, let's get in there and squeeze them or duck their transom or lee bow tack them, it's like, oh, are they going the right way? Am I the idiot going the wrong way? Maybe you just want to tack and get out of there. Maybe, even though you're the right-of-way boat, you go, oh, actually they're sailing on the lift. I'm going to tack and go with them and sail on the lift with them. Or maybe the keep clear boat tacks early and goes away because it says, oh, I don't want to close with this boat. I don't want to risk a bad tack underneath him. He's going the right way. I'll tack and go with him. So quite often, closing into close quarters is the wrong thing to do because you know, if you look at the good fleets of boats, here's very hard to see small J70 fleet. Most of them, which is all these guys, are all going the same way. There's a little group here on the opposite tack, but basically in the middle of the leg, the good fleets, this is probably a World Championship J70 fleet, they don't get into close quarters. You look at that whole fleet there, there's probably 30 boats. There's this one guy here ducking, these two who are quite close. Everybody else is scattered out. You know, this guy here is obviously tacked away from this guy. But yeah, basically, the best thing to do, plan for close quarters, is to avoid close quarters if you can. And it's quite often, as evidenced here, the right thing to do. You're getting clear breeze, you're going the right direction. You know, avoid close quarters if you can. But okay, sometimes you do actually have to close. And so if you are closing with another boat, you have to ask yourself, well, is it close? How close is it? You know, are we going to hit each other? So how do you tell if it's close? Well, the first thing you have to do is look. And this sounds really obvious, but too often this is the problem, that you don't even realise that you're coming into close quarters with that boat that's behind your head sail because you were not looking. So one of the good things about safe and tactical sailing is keeping a good lookout. And it's actually a discipline you've got to start working out how to do it the best way of doing it. And there's different ways of doing it in different circumstances. Yeah, sure, in this circumstance, the helm can look below the boom, but that's a little bit of limited view, ducking down to look below the boom, and you know, the helm might have a bit more on. You might have other priorities like, you know, steering well. And so while the helm might want to have a look, it's not necessarily the best way to rely on him being the only, sorry, that was very sexist of me, of them being the only lookout on the boat. The helm can go down to the low side in this situation, and that sometimes can be a good thing to do. Go to low side, you get a really good clear view of the boat you're closing with, but it can be tactically bad in terms of you're not steering very well quite often from the low side. Some people can do it, some people can't, and you don't get a good view out the other way or what's in front. So it's not necessarily a good way of doing it. It can sometimes work if you really want to make sure that you know what the other boat's doing. It's certainly better than not having eyeballs on the other boat. The main can also look below the boom, but if it's like gusty weather, the main can have a lot on and be, you know, he's the one that's got to be, him, they, she, it, pronouns night, sorry. They can be having to do a lot of work to let the main in and out, and so they might forget to look down. Although, generally speaking, if you are in a fairly clear space and you're pretty confident there's no one behind your sail, the main is quite a good person to occasionally look there and check that's the case. So the main will quite often do that. You can get a trimmer down on the low side. That can be a good one. You send someone down, they can trim the head sail while they're down there, and they've got good view behind the head sail, seeing what's coming up ahead. It's weight on the low side, but you know, if you've got some lighter trimmers, they can go down, and if you have to do a duck, they're ready to let a sail off if need be. Sending someone forward, if you've got a light foredeckie, send them onto the front, and they can look around the sail. They get a very good view. So if you're really uncertain, sending someone forward so they've got a clear view can be a great way of getting a good lookout. If you've got an extra hand or a tactician, you can make it their main priority is that they're spotting the other boats for you. So you as the helm can concentrate on sailing fast, and you've got someone whose dedicated job is to keep that lookout and look for other boats and see that they're coming. The one I like as well is the Crazy Ivan, I call it. Anyone seen Hunt for Red October, where you clear your baffles? So the Crazy Ivan is really good, especially on a boat like a Spree, where you've got this monster asymmetric that goes from 2 metres out in front of the boat to the quarter, and it touches the water the whole way. Doesn't matter who's on the boat, where you're standing, you can't see behind it. It's got a little plastic window. I can't see. It's all cloudy, you can't see through it. So you do a Crazy Ivan. If you think something could be behind your sail, come up so you see behind the leech and see half of it, then come down, see below the luff. And then you go, oh, okay, there's no one down there. And that way you as the helm can get a good view behind the sail. It might cost you a little bit, up and down, but if you're under kite, you should be coming up. If you're under assy, you shouldn't be steering a straight line anyway. You're taking the gusts up and down. So And remember, the right-of-way boat also has to keep a good lookout. So many times you see a boat that they're on starboard going up and they think they're king of the world, no one can affect me with the rules, I'm just going to sail on without looking below. But no, the right-of-way boat has an obligation to look out, but it also can be smart sailing. If there's a boat about to lee bow you want to know about it. If there's a boat that's going the right direction over there, you want to know about it. So the right-of-way boat has to be keeping a good lookout as well. And remember, don't get task focused. Just because you're closing with one boat, you don't have all the eyeballs on that boat. Make sure there's eyeballs around, because there can be things you need to know about coming from any direction. So the first thing about making a plan is having good situational awareness. Have somebody on the boat with eyeballs out of the boat, especially when there's a lot on, when there's, boat handling's gone to hell and the sails are flapping and things are getting tangled. It's so easy to start coaching and have your eyeballs on your boat handling and no one's looking outside the boat. So make sure you've always got someone tasked to have eyeballs outside the boat. And once you know you got your eyeballs outside the boat, you can see another boat coming towards you. Here there's a sexy fast race boat with a big red spinnaker and some clunker coming towards them. So now you can see them. You go like, well, what are the techniques you can apply to say, is this going to be a close cross? Now I can see a boat coming towards me. Are we on a collision course? Am I crossing? Are they crossing? What's happening here? So there's a couple of techniques you can use. If they're shouting starboard at you, that's probably a good indication that they think it's close. Now they might be wrong, but it's certainly telling you something that you should be paying attention to and work out, am I across or not? Or constant bearing. If you've got something, you look past something on your boat, in this case I've picked a sheet, but a stanchion is normally better, the sheet can move. If you look past that fixed thing on your boat and the boat that's approaching is always behind it, it's not going ahead, it's not going behind, then you're on a collision course. And so you know it's close then because you're colliding, constant bearing. It's a good technique to use. The other expression you'll hear people say is taking land. We're taking land out of them, or they're taking land out of us. It's a similar technique, but what you're doing is you're looking past the boat, look past their bow, and you're looking at the shoreline behind them. Doesn't work offshore. And you're seeing if the land there is disappearing behind them. So if these little houses here, you could see them, and then all of a sudden you can't see them, it's said that they're taking land out of you, which means they're probably crossing you and you're certainly not crossing them. Or if you're taking land out of them, is you're looking past them and what was behind their head sail suddenly is out in front of them, then you're taking land out of them. So you're not on a collision course, you're probably, you're not necessarily crossing, you'll be the one that's going to be T-boned, or you're crossing. Just because you're taking land doesn't mean you're necessarily across, it means that you've got a chance of getting across. The range of the land behind, the distance to the boat, all affects how fast that land goes. There's still going to be a bit of a judgment call, but it's a good early indication that yes, we are on a collision course, or we're improving, or they're improving. So it's a good technique to have. Offshore, or at night, you can use AIS. Most boats racing offshore nowadays have AIS, and all commercial boats will have AIS. And if you're looking at another boat, you're seeing lights, you're going, oh, I don't know if it's close or not, go look at the AIS. It'll tell you, what's the closest approach. It's invaluable. I don't know how anyone ever went offshore without AIS at night time. If you can't tell, it is close. As simple as that. If it's not obvious that you're crossing them or they're crossing you, just assume it's close. Plan as if it is close. Okay, so now we've looked out, we've seen the boat, we've done our little techniques, we've said this is going to be a close interaction between the two boats. We've got to come up with a plan. And tonight we're not going to talk about the right of way and keep clear boat and the particular rules very much, because most of this actually isn't about the rules. Most of this is just about good, safe, fast sailing. But occasionally the rules do come in, and here in this situation, it's really the keep clear boat, red in this case, who has the first option to decide whether they're going to tack to stay away, to duck the other boat, or do they think they can get across? It's their decision to try and what their plan is, because they're the keep clear boat. The right-of-way boat is entitled to sail their course. If they think they're going the right way, which in this case they're not, if you look at the arrow, it's against green, green's entitled to sail on. So it's red's obligation to come up with a plan to avoid contact. So, and basically the choices are, she can tack and go along with green, she can do a close tack, or she can do an early tack. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. She can bear away and duck green, or if she gets a little bit of lift here, she might, try and get across green. And there's a certain point when you're trying to get across another boat where you're basically committed. And once you're committed, it's like you no longer can duck, and that's actually quite early on, you lose the option to duck, and you can no longer tack without causing a really big scare. So once you've committed to a cross, you really have to go for it. If it's a close cross, you might start yelling to green, hold your course. Because remember that once you're committed to going across, green can no longer change course so as to prevent you from keeping clear. So if you were going to be across and green comes up a little bit, she's breaking rule 16. So up until that point of where you've committed, a little bit earlier where you've got the option to tack away or you've got the option to duck, green's allowed to hunt you as much as she likes. She can come up, she can go down, she can try and force you into attack. But once you're committed to trying to make that cross, she basically has to let you, she can't come up anymore. And if you've misjudged it, then her option is to bear away and protest, not to T-bone you. And you can definitely remind them not to come up. Giving a shout of hold your course is a good way of reminding them of their obligation not to stop hunting once you're committed. If you feel that you've got no other option, tell them to go behind. But remember, the green is the right-of-way boat can also decide to tack or duck. She might decide, I'm going the right way, so I actually really want red to get across here. I don't want, red to tack on me and go the right way with me. Red's an idiot. Red's going the wrong way. Let her go. So green is the right-of-way boat. One of the last things you want to do is force red into attack. She's going to take your air. She's going to go the right way. So green might voluntarily duck here and make sure red gets across because green wants to continue on the right way. Or green can be an idiot as well and decide to tack because or maybe they think that the next lift is coming the other way, or there's more wind off from the right, or something to that effect. Just because you're the right-of-way boat doesn't mean you have to force your right-of-way. Remember, the right-of-way boat can also take the option to avoid the close contact, and many times it's the right, smart, fast thing to do, not just the safe thing to do. Okay, this sometimes leads to this little passive-aggressive situation here. We've got two boats coming port starboard, and the red boat really wants to cross. And so they shout to the right-of-way boat, tack or cross. And what they're doing is they're passively aggressively threatening to do a leave-our tack on green and ruin green's day, unless green lets them through. So it's a little threat. I don't like it. I think it's too late to have a conversation. By the time you're talking to another boat, of will you let me through, whatever, you're already too close. Because, if the response comes that you don't like, you suddenly have to do the other thing. There's also the issue that tack or cross kind of mean, well, tack means you're going to go that way, and cross means you're going to go that way. So obviously you have no idea which is the lifted tack. You don't know where you want to go. You're giving them the chance to make the option between two different things. And so if green thinks they're going the right way, well, of course they're going to say tack. So if green thinks you're going the right way, they're going to tell you to tack. And then you're going to tack in that big hurry because you were hoping to cross. And then green, in their own good time, will tack and go the right way. And you're going the wrong way, and now they're going the right way. So if a good boat came up to me and I knew they were good sailors and they said tack or cross to me, I'm just going to say tack. Because if they say tack or cross, you know that they want to get across you, and if they're good sailors, you know that they want to go that way. So I'll go that way and they can go the other way. Tell them to tack. Good sailors don't say this. It's kind of like if green knows there's a tactical advantage of letting red cross, they know there's a tactical advantage of letting red across. They'll let red across without being passively, aggressively threatened of a lead bow attack. Speaking of lead bow attacks, yep. You know, a lead bow attack is, you know, a good attacking weapon you can use against another boat if you're on a port tack. But if you're contemplating a lead bow attack, you have to ask yourself, how good are you? Are you really that good a sailor? Can you execute that perfect lead bow attack where you're right, you know, your wind bubble off your sails is giving them a knock, and you're not going to do this, or more often it ends up that. You know, lead bow attacks are really good in match racing, where that one boat, you know, you're quite evenly matched and you quite a lot of close crosses, and you lead bow them and force them to go the wrong way. In club racing, where there's different sized boats and things, the chances are you're not coming together in that perfectly timed thing where you tack and you'll be perfect lead bow. You have to judge it correctly. The chances of you arriving in that sort of 3 to 5 second window where if you tack, you're going to lead bow them is quite small. It's more often than not you'll bury yourself and they'll roll you, or you'll hit them because you're trying too hard. Remember, you're racing the fleet in our races. Tack early in clear air if you think that's the right way to go. And rather than two boats being argy-bargy bumping into each other, you both can go nice and fast and race well against the fleet. So lead bow tacks, they occasionally are good. Sometimes, you know, if you put one on Graham Bradford, just do it. But other than that, you know, normally avoid them. Is Graham here? Yes. Okay. So, you know, we've seen that an early tack's good. The other thing you want to do quite often is duck. If red wants to continue on port, then ducking is probably the best thing to do. You can do a nice little duck and keep going. So it's really good to have a good duck in your repertoire of how to get past another boat in a nice way. So how do you duck? Well, not like this. That's a really bad duck. That's too much, too late. If you leave your duck until the last moment, it's going to be a bad duck. You're going to have to do a big change of direction, which means a lot of main has to come off, and then all that main's going to come back on again before you're going fast again. If the main doesn't release, then you've left it too late to tack. Or at the very, you know, at least it's going to be a horrible crash tack. If you're doing a late duck, main doesn't come off, you've got you're going to be steered and hit them. So you don't want to do a late duck. You want to know that the main's coming off early so that you can, if it doesn't, you can tack. If you're doing a big bear away like this, you've got too much jib on. And the jib, you know, the main might have come off. The jib might be rounding you up. The jib might be overpowering you and taking you up. So you're going to have to ease the jib as well. And now you've got two sails to pull up, two people on the low side. You know, it's not a fast way of getting past another boat. Because then you're shooting past their transom at 90 degrees to the wind. You're going to overshoot by the time you can come up, and you've lost a lot of height. It's not a great way of ducking. So what you want to do, you want to duck early. You want a small early duck is the best. Before you even thinking about it. While you're thinking about it, before you started doing it, as you're approaching it and you're thinking a duck might be one of your options here. It's like, oh, are we across? We might have to duck, I don't know. The moment anyone on the boat is thinking about a duck, the main sheet's in hand, it's out of the cleat, it's ready to be dumped. You get that main sheet ready while you're thinking about it. And if you're on the helm and you're seeing the main hand kicking the cleat because she can't get the thing out of there, then you're going, oh, I don't think this main's coming off. Tacking, and so you're getting that nice early indication that the main's not coming off. And so you're going to release, if you decided to duck, you're releasing that nice and early, and you're doing a small bear away. If you do it early, you're going to have to do a little bear away. So it's only a small ease of the main. The jib can stay where it is, it's not too bad. And there's less main to bring back on again when you want to go back up. Not only that, you've done it early, so now the boat's come down, you're no longer on a collision course. Your boat's under control, the main's come off, you're picking up speed because you're nice reach. You know you're not going to hit them, So now you can come up to them as you pass them. You start coming up to the boat before you pass them so you don't overshoot them. And this way you can come like millimetres behind them because you're in control. Well, okay, decimeters behind them. You're in control, so you can come up. And so you're burning off all that extra speed you got from the reach to get extra height. So you've picked up speed by bearing away and you turn that into extra height. You sail a little higher than you would otherwise. And you punch through their wind shadow with that extra speed and you come out nice and high, or you spend less time in the disturbed air because you're going through it at 90 degrees. You've travelled less distance, less of an S, you're exiting higher, exiting faster. So an early duck is so much better than a late duck tactically and is so much safer than a late duck. So if you're starting to think about a duck, be ready for a duck. If you decide to duck, decide early, do a slight bear away, come up, and you'll hardly notice it. And you're going off in the right direction, no problem.
Also indicating your intention?
The giveaway boat probably doesn't, but I've got a slide on where the right-of-way boat, if they want to duck, they really need to. But we'll do downwind. Downwind is pretty much the same. If you're closing on downwind, you've got the same sort of decision, jibe, cross, or duck. Except for it can be a lot more difficult downwind. The speeds are faster, and the speeds can vary a lot more with the gusts. There's different angles. You might have a boat with an assy and a boat with a symmetric, so they're sailing different angles downwind. And the assy is going to be doing different angles as the gusts come as well, up and down. And the boat works more complex. If you want to do a jibe, you need to have a little bit more planning. The 40 is going to get forward, knit one, purl one with the pawl, give up, drop the whole thing, whatever. But ultimately, once your crew work's going well, a good jibe costs you a lot less than a good tack. So jibing early to stay out of conflict might not cost you anything. And if you want to go the right way, you jibe early and it's not going to cost you hardly anything. Forcing your way across downwind never works. If you think you're not crossing, there's nothing you can do to cross. Going deeper is slower. Crossing them is in their wind shadow. If you're not clearly, obviously across them, there's no cross fingers and hope we'll make it, you're not making it. If you're not clearly across, you're not making it. So you're either going to have to jibe or duck. Don't try and force your way across downwind. Doesn't happen. So you can duck them, come up and go behind them, but remember under kite, that can get scary. You can suddenly be way overpowered and you haven't just gone up, you've rounded up, and it's horrible. So again, the best way of doing that is an early duck. Come up early so you don't have to come up as much, so you're not going to power up as much, and you can get behind them. You do actually have a fourth option downwind. You can just sail slow. You can just stick it dead downwind and let the spinnaker collapse and flap about and let green get out, and then you can pop up and get behind them. You can do this upwind as well. I guess you can always go head to wind and luff and sit there and let the other boat go. But head to wind, upwind, you tend to stop completely, and then you're in irons and it takes you ages to get going. It can be tactically very bad. Where a little slow sail downwind like this, while the other boat gets out of the way, can be okay. But if it doesn't work, you've just closed quarters with them and lost a lot of opportunities, and you're going to try and do a jibe with a collapsed spinnaker, and it's all going to be a mess. So it sometimes works. Practice maybe. If you want to do that, practice away from the boat. How slow can I go downwind? Okay. Good. I'm almost. I'm going to be on time. I'll probably do another 15 minutes. So now we've had a plan. We've looked out. We've seen another boat. We've done our little technique. We've worked. It's close. We've decided we've got a plan of what we're going to do. We're going to duck. We're going to tack. We're going to cross them. So what do we do with this plan that we've just developed? We communicate our plan. It's no good you sitting there as being skipper on the helm going, oh, I know what we're doing. You've got to tell the crew. And this is really important. It's not just to make a nice tack, but it can have really big safety implications, as we'll see. So if you're going to tack, you're going to say ready to tack. 3, 2, 1. Give them time to get into positions, do your tack. If you're going to duck, you say we're ducking, get the main sheet in the hand. You get the main sheet off, we're ducking. Tell the crew what's happening. If you're trying to get across them, say we're crossing. Height mode, get the main on. Full hike, get the toes and fingers out. We need every bit of height we can get. Tell the crew what's happening. And this is really important on the right-of-way boat. If that right-of-way boat thinks they're going the right way and thinks, oh well, I'm just going to duck a little bit and let red through, and then someone on your boat on the rail goes, starboard, and forces them to tack, and by dumb luck they do that perfectly, they'll tack. You're screwed. So if you want to duck them, you have to tell your crew, we're ducking, don't call starboard. Make sure your crew knows that you're ducking, so they're not yelling hails at the other boat. So you have to communicate your plan. So working on good communication on your boat is the next thing I want to talk about. Good communication on your boat is key for safety, and it's key for speed and tactics. And so what are the problems you can have on a boat? So we can have not talking. That was the example of not telling what the plan is. The crew should already be ready for attack. They should be ready for anything. I'll just do, put the helm over, and they should be ready. Well, maybe, but a little bit of warning doesn't hurt. So don't not say something, talk to your crew. Not listening. Believe it or not, this is a really frequent thing where, the helm's sailing away thinking they've got everything under control, and some crew members going, got a problem with green, got a problem with starboard tacker, and for some reason, normally, or not uncommonly, gender, or seniority, or they're a newbie, or something, it's just not heard. So just make sure you have a culture on your boat that if someone's telling you something, you're listening. And if you find it's a distraction, they're telling you two things, then separately have a conversation about what sort of things you want to hear from the rail and what sort of things you want to hear from the crew. But we have a problem with a starboard tacker is something you have to hear. And too often it's not heard. So make sure you're hearing it. Task focus. You're going to be coming here in a very close port starboard cross, and there's one problem, someone having a problem doing up the leech line on the jib. And everyone's helping them. Everyone's there. You're like the under-9 football club with everyone crowded around the ball. It's like, everyone's in the position on the leech line. Get the leech line. We've got to get the leech line. And no one's got eyes out of the boat. So you've got to have the eyes out. Everyone's got to be doing their positions. One person can be dealing with the leech line, and everyone else is sailing the boat. Don't get fixated onto that one thing. And don't have everybody shouting the same thing and doing things. Because then the other thing is that someone starts shouting, and everyone's shouting, everyone's talking, and shouting is a really bad way of communicating. And if everyone's talking, everyone's fixated, shouting, all you hear is stress, and you don't hear what they're saying. You just, this leech line must be really important because someone's shouting at me. I'm going to get this leech line. So yes. Flogging sails is another one. If your boat's just unsettled and the sails are flap, 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 then you can be trying to say commands, or you say whether let's tack, but no one hears it, and everyone's unsettled. So getting your boat settled and not flogging and whatever is a really important way, not just so you can sail fast, but so you as a team can communicate. So we'll go through a couple of slides on these in a little bit more detail. That's the other thing, is who to listen to on your boat. Because quite often you'll have lots of vocal people on a boat saying contradictory things, and maybe only one of them is saying something reasonable. So what you should do, always have a really clear chain of command. Part of my safety briefing when I bring people onto the boat is what's the chain of command, especially with Jan and me on a spree. It's quite often, I might go in going blah, 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 as if I'm the skipper, but if Jan's on the helm, she's the skipper. It's her the final decision. So I always brief the crew. Just because I'm saying something doesn't mean it's going to happen. You've got to wait until Jan calls it, because she's the skipper in that situation. And other boats will have different dynamics. Maybe the person making the decision is not the helm. Maybe the helm is just steering. So everyone on the boat has to know whose voice is final. Just because someone says something doesn't mean it's going to happen. So, okay. Oh yeah, and another good thing for communication is to always relay communications. If you're sitting on the rail and there's 3 people towards the bow and you hear very softly, get ready to tack, but it wasn't very loud, relay it. Get ready to tack, guys, we're tacking. Pass the message along. Make sure that everyone has heard the message of what's happening. Acknowledge commands. If someone says ready to tack, don't just get off the rail and put the handle and hold there with the rope. Say you're ready. Because someone's asked the question, too often that it doesn't get responded to. Ready. So make sure that communication is happening two ways. You're relaying the messages and you're responding to messages so everybody knows what the plan is. Okay. This slide was written by ChatGPT. Shouting important messages can be very counterproductive. Too often boats, the shouting happens on a boat. I'm guilty of this. I've sailed with lots of good sailors who are guilty of this. But if you sail with someone who's zen, when everything goes pear-shaped, it's such an admirable thing that I just aspire to being a zen sailor because it just makes things so much better. These are all the problems with shouting. It's people are hearing the stress, they're not hearing the content of what you're saying. You're diminishing your own position. You're looking panicked, so everyone else is getting panicked. It's just not a great way of communicating. Greg, don't shout. Don't shout, Greg. Other than the occasional hurry up hail, which is very good because the crew doesn't realise that you actually are racing. Anyway, I'll let you read that one in detail, or ask ChatGPT yourself about the problems of shouting. So we all have to be zen. There's a couple of zen sailors in the club, and also some professional ones that you watch on Sail GP and America's Cup. And you just listen to that calm voice when the shit's really hitting the fan, and it just, I aspire to that so much. I'll get there one day. Flogging sails. There's a number of times where I've been in, I think last year's Hobart actually was a good one. We were going through the Storm Bay, it was 45, squall after squall after squall, and I was on a boat that was just so well trimmed. It had the right sails up, it was just, we were having a conversation less than this. I wasn't even speaking as loud as this on the boat in 45 knots, because the boat was just humming. It had the right sails up. And then all it needs is a slightly different boat. Some boats, actually, we overtook some boats where their sails just, and the stress reaction that you get. It's like we couldn't talk while we're next to them when we're on a different boat. So how's the crew on the boat with flogging sails going to communicate or come up with a safe plan of action? So if you're overpowered and you can't get your sails to trim, even just like the last third of the sail and big bubble in it is fine, as long as it's not flogging. Then reef, get that reef in early. Make sure you've got the right amount of sails up. Change the head sail. Don't be overpowered. If you can't control the boat, then you're not safe and you're not fast. If you can't do that, go home. If it's too much wind for your conditions, there's no shame. Esprits not sailed races where we knew it was going to be too much for us. We've also sailed races where Greg left the 3 behind because he thought it was too heavy and was going to be light. Don't do that one again. But yeah, don't sail around overpowered. It's not fast, it's not safe. You're not going to win anything on your ear, sails flogging, going sideways. What's the point of being out there? Go play golf. So there are techniques and maybe when we get to the discussion session, we can talk it through a little bit some of the techniques. But if you can't shorten sail, getting that backstay on. Don't forget you can really flatten the middle of the sail with the backstay. It also opens up the top. Twist is your friend. Letting the wind blow out from the top of the sails. Get the car back on the head sail. Twist the head sail off so it can come out the top there. If you know it's going to be strong, you can screw the rig down ahead of time. There's lots of little tips about how you can sail a boat in strong weather. Feathering, learning how to feather your boat so you're sailing higher than you would otherwise, but just keeping the sails just going a little bit can work on some boats. Other boats it's a disaster. but it can be a technique to keep the boat under control in heavy weather. I'm going to finish my slides and then we can talk about other techniques. Okay. So we've had our plan, we've looked out, we've seen the other boat, we've worked out the plan, we've communicated the plan to everyone else, we've got lovely communication going, the right sails are up, we're not overpowered, everything's going well. Things have just got complicated. Bloody marks. We're trying to sail away from all the other boats and all of a sudden we've got a mark. And the problem with marks is they concentrate the fleet. So all that effort we've gone to stay away from other boats, it's all, you can't do that at a mark. It's all going to come in. You're not just going to close on one boat, you're going to be closing on, end boats, the whole fleet, especially on that first upwind mark. So marks, you've got to have a really great plan for doing it. You have to plan well ahead. Sometimes as you start that leg, you're going to be working out what side of the course I want to be on when I get to that next mark, especially downwind. So you're planning long way ahead. Beware the port ley line. The port ley line coming in on port, being on port within the zone sucks. And it sucks for a number of reasons. You have more rights for the starboard tackers under Rule 18. You have fewer rights for the port tacker under Rule 18. And these are people don't realise some of these rules. We'll go through them. So not only are you the port tack boat, you must click clear of all those boats on the starboard ley line. You're on opposite tacks to those guys. You have no mark room. Mark room's never going to apply to you here. You're going with a fleet around a mark with no prospect of getting mark room off anybody that's on that starboard ley line. So you're at a big disadvantage. You can't force any of those boats on the starboard ley line into a luff. So even if you were really good and can do that perfect lee bow tack, on green there, if she luffs, you've broken a rule. You've broken Rule 18. Because you're a port tacker in the zone, you can't force them into a luff. So even if you've got that in your armoury, that perfect lee bow tack, you're not allowed to do it in the zone. So you've got no choice in this scenario but to do a great big duck. And then when you do the great big duck, you're going to do a great big tack from down all the way back up. And now you've tacked in the zone. And what happens when you tack in the zone? You lose even more rights. So if you've tacked in the zone and purple down there gets an inside overlap on you, even though they were outside the zone and you were inside the zone, you've got to give them mark room because you tacked in the zone. If anyone gets an inside overlap on you and they were laying the mark, you've got to give them mark room. Tacking in the zone sucks. Being on the port ley line sucks. Don't do it. It's even if there were no other boats, coming in on the port ley line sucks. The best you're going to get is a 180-degree turn. If your gear's on the right way, you're going to do a tack and bear away. You're not going to have the pole up in time. The pole's going to go up late. It's going to be a horrible set. It's going to be a rush set. You've lost a lot of speed by doing a 180-degree turn. If the gear's on the wrong side of the boat, or you really want to go to the left-hand side of the course, you're going to do a 270. You're going to scrub off any speed that you had. You're going to have to do a tack, a jibe, and then a set. Nick one, pearl one on the foredeck's going to be horrendous. It's going to be the worst set ever. It's just, even if there's no boats, you don't want to be there. It's just the wrong way to go. Get on that starboard ley line early. Like, the earlier you join it, the less congestion there's going to be. So in this situation, there's still a bit of congestion, but at least you have the option that you can do a lee bow tack on a boat there, and you can now, force them off and hope to get to that mark. So if you're going to join the starboard ley line from port, do it outside the zone. And so at least you've got a couple of, you haven't lost your rights, you can push boats into luffs and get there. Better yet, do it even earlier. Be the boat on the starboard ley line that's causing everyone else grief. Because the congestion's even less. You have all your weapons. You can do your lee bow tack if you're so rock star great. You can cross them and tack and gas them all the way to the mark and they don't make it. You can even duck them and tack and then you've got a shield from the other port tackers and you get around there nicely. So the earlier you join the starboard ley line, the better it's going to be for you to get there, and the more you can assure yourself of a clear wind lane all the way to that mark. Joining it in the zone, it's just, you know, yeah, bad tactics, slow, unsafe. You're causing yourself lots of grief. So beware the port ley line, even if it's a starboard rounding. All those were port roundings, which we mostly don't do, only like when with lewards. But even on a port ley line, starboard rounding, the port ley line is a little bit problematic. You're still it can be done safely. You're still the keep clear boat. You're never going to get marked room on any of these other boats on the starboard ley line. So you have to keep clear. You're not going to get marked room. You're going to have to give them space. If you come in on that ley line, they're all just going to push you into a tack, and then you're going to tack and then tack back. You're going to do tack, tack, bear away. You're going to be really slow. So if you're coming in on the port ley line, what you do is you just overlay it. You just off a little bit, give them all the starboard tackers room to go around, and it can actually not be that bad because they're doing the 180-degree turn. You're doing the 90-degree turn. You've got the pole up already. You've got the tack of the spinnaker pre-fed. You're coming in wide, out close. And so you're going to have a really nice set. You know, if they've got around before you, you're gassing them. This can be a good tactical rounding to come in wide on the port ley line. Don't be on the port ley line itself. So, the worst it gets is 180 degrees. If the gear's on the wrong side and you want to do a jibe set, you're never doing a 270. The worst you do is 180 and come out the other side. Okay, beware the underlay. Coming up to a starboard rounding, we have this all the time, where green is in there first. She's got marked room on red. She's the right-of-way boat on red. Starboard rounding, she thinks she's winning this. She's going to get around first. But she hasn't laid it. She's short of that ley line. Mark room in this situation doesn't include room to tack. The rules are changing on January 1st and it's even less likely to include room to tack. Green can't tack in front of red there. So basically you never tack in front of another boat. Mark room doesn't entitle you to tack in front of another boat. So in that situation, gone the wrong way, basically green has to wait until red tacks before green can tack. So that was because green tacked short of the starboard ley line. She didn't quite get there. So green really needs to have gone a little bit further and gotten the starboard ley line so she can get around. Is that clear? Okay, that's all my prepared material. So I'm just going to do the summary of what I've come up with of safe, fast sailing. Keep a lookout. If you don't see other boats, you can't keep clear of them. Avoid close quarters if possible. Oops. It's not necessarily just because we're not jousting. If you see another boat who's on port and you're on starboard, you don't have to cross them. Maybe they're going the right way. Evaluate which way you want to go before you go in close quarters. Have a plan. Know what you're doing. Plan early, especially for mark roundings. Way early. You want to know what side of the gear you want to drop or what you're going to set, whether you're going to attack, which side of the course you're going to come in. Have a plan B. If plan A doesn't work, know what your plan B is. Communicate your plan effectively to your crew and take communication from your crew so that you're listening to what they've got to say. Keep control of the boat. If you don't have control of the boat, then you're not going fast and you're not safe and you're not going to win races. So that's making sure you have the right amount of sail up, the right amount of training of how to deal with the sails that you do put up. So that. Avoid the port ley line. It sucks. And more. This is now the open questions and discussion part of the evening. Whew. So that was 50 minutes of quickly prepared slides. And I did have an early question from Peter Grayson, who thought this situation, which happened in last Thursday's Middle Harbour Twilight, was there a protest for this?
No, they
Good.
talked about protesting, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, okay. So we can talk about it then. If there was a protest, I wouldn't talk about it.
No, great, because obviously I wasn't there.
Okay.
And I just heard secondhand that there was issues and stuff, but I don't know exactly
Well, I haven't talked to any of the people who were first. I was on a boat about 50 metres behind this. So I saw it up ahead. I've had a few things echoed to me. This is what I believe happened, is that it's at twilight, everyone's going downwind, everyone was on port. There was a mark, it was Nelson's Bay mark, and there was a lot of boats concentrating in. And there was a boat on the blue one here that was basically very close to running aground, and she called water. And she was basically saying, I'm at a continuing obstruction, I've got an overlap, you've got to let me pass that obstruction. So she's calling orange, light blue, purple, and crimson to go down. Whereas at the other end, and I believe the chain of boats was longer. I think it could have been 7 or 8 boats. And on the other end, crimson's coming to a mark. She's got overlap. She's the inside boat. She's owed mark room. You know, she can't get purple and blue pushing her down. She's entitled to go there. If all those boats shuffled up to give blue room to pass the beach, then crimson was going to be pushed away and miss the mark. I believe there was contact between boats. So because someone in the hailful water wasn't passed along, one of the boats in the chain decided, no, I'm not going down. So crimson never heard about it. So Crimson is the one who's talked to me about it and said that afterwards they were told that they should have gone the other side of the mark. So what do people think should have happened in this? I mean, is there a rules resolution to this?
Chance for redress if you do go around the other side of the mark.
Well, if you go, yeah, well, if you go aground, and this is a DK46, if DK46 goes aground at Nelson's Park, I don't think getting redress for points in the twilight. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Past the mark, as you said, says I had to because everyone had to improve and I was at the end.
Yeah.
Seek redress.
I actually don't know the rules of this. I've tried to work through them all, and yeah, redress would be an interesting one. I've posted on one of the rules forums to see what the great minds there think. But I think if the hail had gone all the way to Crimson, then given the choice of making a boat run aground or missing a mark, I think missing the mark is the lesser of two evils.
It's similar but different came up in the safety briefing over at Middle Harbour when we were invited.
All right.
And they were using the fact that right at the mark was the dive boat and the master dive boat. And the discussion then led to what are the options. Someone went all the way around the outside, someone went, I'll just miss the mark, and some went, like a year like, I'll just go in between the dive boat and the mark. And that's where the answer became, miss the mark, pass the redress.
Yes. Well, in this case, I think Blue, earlier on, could see the gaggle of boats at the mark, and she thought she was doing the right thing going around the outside. So she deliberately took she's a faster, bigger boat. It's like she said, I'm not sailing into that pack, I'm just going to go up someone's bum. I'll go around the outside, and then it just went, there was nothing, and so, and again, the rule about establishing an overlap at a continuum obstruction, it says if the room doesn't exist when you establish the overlap, you're not due the room. But when she established the overlap and they were back from the mark, the room existed then. So she was entitled to go in there. The room just...
Is there a trial? Because if they know the obstruction's there and they're wind with the boat, don't they have to get away?
Well, they are the keep clear boat, but they're entitled to room in a continuum obstruction, and the rule says they're entitled to it if the room existed when the overlap was established. And the overlap was established some way back from the mark. And so I guess they're not entitled to anticipate that there's not enough room between the shore and the mark for all the boats to go cheek by jowl, and there. And so an interesting thing here is that it was a communication issue as well. The fact that there was a boat about to run aground probably was lost in the boat to boat to boat to boat communication. And someone along the line just said, nah, not important enough. Oh, he's just doing it for tactical reasons. There was a hand at the back.
Yeah, I've said it for years and years and years. It doesn't matter if you're in the right have a bad day. So you've got, don't anticipate that everyone knows the rules. You're coming in, you go, no, we've got right of way here, they're all good. They're morons, they're not going to, and you put yourself in a bad spot. You might win the moral victory if you've had a terrible time. Anticipate the worst and don't go into places. Buffalo go around the outside if you can. You know, really start thinking, these guys are idiots. I know I've got the right of way. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care, so you're just saying to yourself, I have right of way if you're jumping over the cliff.
Yes.
Earlier on, where was these boats? If you go back.
Oh, basically there was, well, I don't know.
The loop was faster and bigger. I'm assuming it's come around to the outside.
Yeah, but it's a whole gaggle of boats. There's boats ahead of them, there's boats behind them. I've only drawn the ones in this line. So it was a big gaggle of boats. There was probably 20 boats there. The whole fleet arrived at this mark at the same time.
So the plan for Blue was just to go around the outside and
Well-
risk the obstruction?
Well, I think when she started going around the outside, she didn't realise she was risking the obstruction. She just assumed all of us, you know, I'm going to go around the outside and come up. And then as she got there, she realised that the pack was coming down and extending to the shore. So yeah, maybe there was some anticipation. But then it's like, well, what does she do? She's faster than them.
She's already there, she's too late now.
It's too late now. And so it was interesting that, you know, and her choice between running aground and causing collisions was that she caused collisions. And then I don't think she actually hit the orange. I think the collisions were in the pack. And so Rule 14 doesn't really help you out there, because Rule 14, you have to avoid contact if reasonably possible. But if you're light blue at meet in the sandwich, and you've got, you know, one boat coming up on one side, the other boat coming down, it's not reasonably possible for you to avoid a collision. But so the interesting thing here is I don't think there's a clear rules resolution of it, but choosing the lesser of the evils is what you want to do. If possible, communicate to Crimson of, hey, missed the mark and let's avoid collisions and groundings. Failing that, the collisions were better than groundings. And the worst thing would have been a grounding. So, yeah, it was an interesting one. All right, now it's time for war stories of safety instances, safety tips. Someone must have something to say. Oh,
Again, last race, we were coming into Channel Island Port, and a 40-footer Readings was coming in cruising coming through, and a big head tilt, and we saw it, and of course my guys go, okay, main out of the jammer, dial down, and then I know that's about 10 degrees, and then my forward head's going, dial down again, okay, we're clear. Then he saw us, he panicked and bore away. So we were at that stage yelling out hold your course, but he had no idea what hold your course was. So all of a sudden around the head saw us, saw the skipper, there's only two on board, look around and we go, what do you think you're doing? And we saw the bow and the reds in a 15 knot nor'easter, just trying to straight. It was all safe, no problems. We were 10 miles from him. He panicked, so we had to just screw him, hold your course, and then we also abused the shit out of him. But he just, what were you doing?
oh, that would be the good communication you achieved by shouting. Yeah. So he after that interaction, he clearly understood the rules and his obligation as the to hold the course, because he was the
Yeah, he panicked and bore away, and literally was going to T-bone us within one boat length. Finally, we had nowhere to go.
yeah.
We were being ordered, so we were doomed. And it was the whole crew started screaming that when he stuck his head around, so he obviously had his partner, you know, the two people who were steering, no one was watching.
Well, again, so the lessons from that is that because that boat wasn't watching, didn't have a good look at, they were caught by surprise. And so then the other thing is that, you know, I'm not saying you didn't communicate well enough, but, you know, the communication that you were ducking them wasn't made to them because they weren't looking.
We didn't need to.
Yeah, exactly.
We
So,
gave so much room, we got down so early, we were fine. No one takes a worry. We're just chatting to each other, going, good dog, hold it here, we'll be able to, oh, fuck! It was just long, man. He was on board. He was on starboard. We're on board. Well, he panicked. He just panicked. He didn't know we were there until he heard someone yell out, hold the course, stuck his head around the headsail,
and shit himself, and then all of a sudden started to bear away, thinking he could avoid an accident, and it just it was 7 seconds of sheer panic. I guess that comes to the pneumatic system navigation. Make your intentions early, and obvious.
But they did that.
Well, but, yeah, well, keep a lookout.
Sydney Harbour was too busy cruising around having a Chardonnay. It was too busy. You shouldn't, he didn't anticipate it. He shouldn't have been just coming in the heads. It was very wrong.
We had some friends around from overseas a couple of Saturdays ago, and it was like, oh, we should just go for a cruise around the harbour. And it was blowing 18, there were boats everywhere, and it was like, no, we're not going, sorry. I know it'd be nice. Esprit's not that boat. And it's like, it's like there's too many people, it's not that relaxing. I'll be stressed, therefore you'll be stressed.
What if they change the call from water to room attack?
Well, technically the call has never been water. It was so in this. It's interesting. Water has always been used as multiple things. In this case, it's not room to attack. In this case, it's they're obliged for room at a continuing obstruction. This is Rule 19, and there is no hail in Rule 19. They're just calling water to say, I need water, I'm running out of water here. You have to give me room. There's no tacking involved here. And it just so happened that because people would use that call for water, they started using it for the other way around. That if you're going upwind and you need room to tack, which is I've forgotten my numbers, it's a different rule. Room to tack, it's 20, does require a hail. And it used to be that any hail in any language that was expected to be understood, that meant that you wanted to tack, was sufficient as a hail. And therefore, and it had to be responded to either by tacking or responding UTAC. And they've changing on January 1st, that now it's explicitly, you have to ask for room to tack. And so shouting water is no longer, if you in the situation of you wanting to tack, you have to say room to tack. In this situation, calling water is still reasonable because you're not required to hail. Orange can't run blue aground. If blue doesn't say anything, orange is not allowed to run blue aground. Orange has to give blue room to avoid running aground, regardless of anything it's said. So in this case, they can say, "Fuck off, you bastard." It's just as good as yelling water. So, am I recording this? Shit.
What is the hail that orange should give to light blue, and light blue to purple, and purple? So, what hail should they give?
They probably say, I have to give room here. I have to give room to, I've got to give room, I've got to give room. I've got a boat above me, I've got to give room to. So if it's the other way around, if you're giving, you can say, if it's going that way along the chain, you can say, I've got an obstruction here. A boat's, it's a rock, it's another boat you've got to keep clear of. And so you say, I've got an obstruction, I've got to come up. I've got an obstruction, I've got to do this. Or going the other way around is you're obligated to give room. I have to give room to the boat here. I've got to come down. I've got to give room. And so, in many ways, the actual choice of words shouldn't matter. What you're basically saying, I'm obligated. And if someone shouts out to you, I'm obligated, words to the effect, I'm obligated to do this, the response is, really? How? Why? What about clause C-2I, second paragraph? I don't think you are technically, because if you start the conversation, then they're going to hit something, someone's going to get run over, the dive boat's been T-boned. If someone's saying they're obligated, they honestly believe they're obligated, let them do what they want to do if you can.
A hypothetical, right? Let's say the bluebird boat doesn't actually need water, but for whatever reason starts pushing the other boats up. The other boats are all obliged to avoid collision anyway, so if they all come up to avoid collision, then arguably they've all got to come up.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if Blue's pretending like she's got more draft than she has, then Blue's an arsehole. And
Orange would have votes over light blue because it has to come up.
yeah, it has to come up. Yeah, so it's like it doesn't make any difference to what Orange has to do. If you really believe that they could have gone in there, then you can protest them and say no, they could have gone in there. But it's a really hard one because you don't know. It could be they've seen a dolphin and they've got to keep away from the marine mammal. It could be there's a swimmer in the water. It could be a log in the water. You don't know what the reason is that they're trying to avoid. You can guess, oh, it's the swimming baths at Nelson Point, but it actually might be a swimmer who's another 10 metres closer. So if they're asking, they're saying they've got to do something, believe them. Just if you can do it, you do it. In this case, poor light blue couldn't because the boat's on the other side, and so they were like, oh, we'll just sail straight and make contact.
In terms of clear communication, one word is clearer, which is water.
It's not a bad word to use, especially in this situation. So, in going upwind in this situation, you can still say water in terms of just give me a bit more space so I don't run aground, but room to tack is still it's more than water. Room to tack is not only do I need a boat width next to the obstruction and things, I can't go there upwind, I have to tack and come out at 45. Downwind you can always go, so long as they give you a gap that's boat width wide, you can go through it. So water is still a generally good call to say, I've got something here I've got to avoid, but it's different to room to tack. And so so people have always assumed if they said water, they meant room to tack, upwind. But now they're saying that if you really want to tack and you want to avoid it by a long way because you've got to sail off at 45, say room to tack. Yeah. But if someone yelled water at me and I could see that they were probably going to have to tack, I would again you don't go you don't throw them a bottle of water and go haha.
It comes back to the first rule of coal rings, which is avoid collision and
Cost and avoid contact and fair sailing. There's a whole bunch of rules that if you're deliberately misunderstanding. So yeah, if someone's yelling aqua, there's like what? Yeah. All right. Someone else has to have another good war story. Anyone online? Who here has hit another boat? Yeah? Come on. Why did you hit the other boat?
I was dinghy sailing and we were going down and I overtook him and he tried to go around the mark, but because we were entered the mark room at the same time, he thought that he had mark room, we entered at the same time. And he tried to push me out and I avoided the mark and he came around with a quick tack and just slammed into me.
So what will you do differently next time?
Shout mark room and maybe shove his over my foot.
Yeah, well, I mean, the first bit is good. It's like coming into a mark where there's mark room is disputed, then having that early conversation of, I think I'm owed mark room, no you're not, there is an overlap, blah, blah, blah. It's much better to do that, say 5, 6, 7 boat lengths from the mark rather than 2 boat lengths from the mark, because you have the time to have the conversation backwards and forwards and be a little bit, am I being the a-hole here? Reflection of, oh, okay, I'll just let them in. But yeah, you can resolve it, or they at least know that it's a contested thing, and they're going to be, if they're assuming that they've got mark room and they think you've got mark room, then they're going to act differently than if they know it's contested. They'll be more cautious. So again, clear communication of what you think the situation is very helpful. Oh, come on. We need a Toy Story of collision. Which one? Which one? We'll cue it up.
Just thinking about it, I don't think I've hit any boats while racing where I was in the rock. I've been hit by other boats on many occasions. On a few occasions, it was a close call thing. So close that I was so embarrassed I went after the race to that particular skipper and apologised for frightening the hell out of him. The other collisions were paying attention to the boats.
Well, look out, yeah, keeping good lookout. Oops.
and run around.
Uh-huh.
It was a very slow Wednesday race, only doing about a knot and a half, so no damage. It was just before her mark, so we had to have the boat lifted and re-inspected, and so the cascading series of consequences when you make mistakes like that. Another boat I did, I sort of blame Lisa for this, because she's talking to me. I wasn't looking where I was going.
She was communicating with you.
Get out of the boat, took out some stanchions, on our boat, ran the other boat up, and now I can bring down this meter over. Oh, and Peter Grayson was no doubt listening to this. I apologise yet again, Peter.
Stephen Toy is apologising, Peter.
For hitting you before a race
Hitting before a race, yep.
and taking out much of his stanchions. But that was in the race.
And so what would you do differently for all of those, or some of those, you know, now with the great hindsight?
Pay attention to what's going on around you, always. Plan early. Everything you just said would have prevented these incidents every time without fail.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the takeaway point I'd like to make, is that, you know, what Greg is saying makes a lot of sense. If you pay attention to those fundamental rules and plan early, you won't have these accidents.
So I think, yeah, if I've gone through the accidents I can remember at this club, and we've had a couple of failed late ducks, where the duck was done too late, main sheet didn't come off. We've had a couple of boats just closing with not knowing that there's another boat behind the head sail doing. We've had the starboard underlay a couple of times where a boat's gone past the mark and then tacked in front of another one because they thought they had mark room. That's taken out a...
There's a good one about, we had a 4 rounding in a particular race, unusual. One boat didn't read the sailing instructions. Went round the starboard, one was like,
Oh, that was Moonraker. So what was Moonraker one?
Same one, Moon's Challenge, where it was a
Ah.
landing and somebody went, no, that's not, hadn't read the sailing instructions.
So yeah, I guess there's a whole slide I probably should have done here about preparing for the race, so you know where. You know, it's I guess that slide where you had the J70 fleet. If everyone's going the same way, things are easy, you know. And so not reading the sailing instructions, not knowing the course, or doing something, you know, not knowing how the start procedures work, means that you can be going against the flow, and things can be tough. So.
Also, consideration in when there's a packed fleet is when there's no wind, there's very little manoeuvrability. And we had a race a couple of weeks ago, the mark down at Obelisk.
Yeah.
Everyone was congested. So we're almost sitting on top of each other.
Not everyone is free sailed through a lot of you, but go on.
So there's less manoeuvrability when there's no
And
wind.
the other club was going around the
So
same.
the consideration is to think even further ahead in those conditions. So with in mind the fact that there's
I have to say I felt guilty of that one because we came up to the parking lot that was Obelisk, and you can see some boats had clearly decided to do the right thing from my training courses of going around the outside, but that just took them really close into the shore, and there was nothing there. So the boats that went around the outside absolutely stopped, and the whole parking lot just drifted away and left this little gap at the mark, which I sailed through.
We did the same as Moonlight.
So, do as I say, not as I do.
Been on the boat which almost T-boned because the guy on the main kicks the sheet off with his foot,
Mhm.
his shoe got caught in it.
Oh!
And couldn't release. Helm couldn't steer.
I mean, the main steering the boat is just such a common thing. I did a twilight with David on Thursday. I was on main steering the boat more than he was on the tiller. And so keeping your boat in control and making sure that main is not steering the boat is such an important thing to do, getting it in hand. And some boats are just, you know, just that can affect the boat. So knowing how to release your main, not forgetting that if you can't get the main out of the cleat, you might have to fine tune. You can drop the traveller. If all else fails, a huge wrench on the backstay is going to open the top of the sail. So there's plenty of ways of depowering a main. And some boats, if you've got a backstay, practice that. If you've got a gust, practice, see what happens if you just pull that backstay on as hard as you can. Is that enough to allow you to bear away, to spill, not round up?
Just to summarise what you just said, it's got something really fundamental, especially if you change boats. Know your boat.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Know what your boat can and can't do, what its weaknesses are, its vulnerabilities are. But I suppose to some extent your crew. But to understand what your boat will do under certain circumstances and won't do, it's a real fundamental. And if you've been sailing the same boat for 20 years, then it's not going to be a problem. But if you change boats, which we all do, when you do change boats, beware. Not all boats sail the same.
Same, definitely, yeah. So, I just remember the first 3 years I had this current boat of just testing the boundaries. It was like, whoa.
Maintenance issues, I've done a lot of stuff where gear doesn't work, it's too expensive to replace. So people don't replace the gear on the boat. So they have a faulty main jam. It's been pretty good sometimes it jams off. Unfortunately, you can't race car with bad brakes. They won't let you on. It's too dangerous. It's too hard now. So guess what? You just got to spend money. And a new main sheet system is going to be nearly $2,000.
Yeah.
But if it's jammed once, then you've got to suck it up like a cup, and you've got to work with it, get it right to rebuild it, or make it work properly. Pencils, if your headies are overriding because the lead from the turning bolt back to the heading you're trying to attack it as an override, it's happened all at once. It's not gee whiz, that's lovely, you've got to get it fixed. You have an obligation because people get burned. But people don't because they want to save money or they just flog it off.
And
You're racing on Sydney Harbour in 710 2-ton boat, and it's just, there's so many bits and pieces that you can't let sheets off. Tillers, suspect tiller hands. I've had that situation.
Yes.
Haymaker? Isn't there something else with the tiller head? Oh no, with my boat. Sorry. My boat. They were coming out in the Howling Westie. I was overseas and they were coming out and Andy Bill was steering and they were bitching to it that there'd be round up and they said, I'll come and steer us, it's easy, and he handed them the tiller.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think that sort of maintenance is another clear case where the safe thing is the fast thing. Because, you know, if you're kidding yourself, I'm saving money by not replacing some vital bits of gear, then you're not going to be fast either. If you're out there to race, and if the main can't be trimmed, if you're getting overrides so you can't release the jib, or you can't pull it on, then what are you doing out there? You're not going to win the races. You're just putting people's, you know, health and safety and prized toys at risk to sail badly around the harbour.
And you lose crew.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You definitely lose crew.
Crew don't like that.
Yeah.
Crew don't like a bad boat, and they'll drift off the boat slowly because the boat just doesn't work.
So, I mean, yeah, there's some things, bits of maintenance can be let slip, but, you know, sail controls, if you can't control your sails, like I've gone on boats where the traveller has just been locked solid, and oh, we don't never use that. But it's a key, you know, instrument tool for changing the shape of the main, to depowering it, to getting that twist in there, to the dumping, changing angle attack. So it doesn't always work in all boats, but you know, if the designer put a traveller on the boat, there's a good chance the traveller is going to have some significance on that boat. Even if it's not a control that's going to help you dump and bear away, it might be a control that helps you trim the sail in such a way that you're more in control, you're not flogging, everything's more stable, you're able to communicate better. So yeah, the sail controls are so important. I mean, it's what we're out there for. And so if the ropes are frayed, they're jamming, the cleats are not releasing, or they are releasing, it's not fast and it's not safe. So. Ooh, another one.
Professionalise your crew.
Say again?
Professionalise your crew.
Pay them?
No.
Just,
Why not? Make them seem more professional. Don't have a more on your main, don't have Nicky on Getzel. If you're going out, again, you're on a big boat, you can really hurt someone, you can ride up and crush someone. I went to a boat where the boat chopped the person's leg off and I was facing the flood and guts out of the tow rail where it had ridden up and chopped his leg off. So when you're going out in a race, don't go out and just go a bunch of dickheads you've never sailed before. Professionalise them. Put some investment into the guy who works on money. Make sure you've got a good guy grinding and a better guy trimming who can tail. Don't just wander around with a bunch of morons. You owe it to everyone else who's sailing with you.
And I also think the flip side of that is you have to empower your crew. I think personally I was very guilty in the early days of skippering, of being a bit of a control freak and coaching from the helm and making sure that everything was done the way I would do it. And I think that disenfranchises the crew so they don't make decisions until you're telling them what to do and things. If you empower your crew to be able to do it the way they like to do it and tell you how they want to do it, then the boat and don't overcoach. Don't scold if they do it slightly differently and things like that. Then they take more responsibility and they're more engaged and everything goes better and happy days. So it's getting the crew engaged and not having this I'm on the helm, aren't I wonderful? All you peons, shut up. And you better not do it wrong, otherwise you're in trouble.
But it may just go wrong. Share a story which was in the middle of the sound, and you find out there's actually a small break on the block after you've released the jib in attack. And so the jib's not being released. Then you find out what it is, then you've got to take it off and be able to get the break off. You only do that once.
Oh yeah, well.
But it was the helm that was able to miss everything else as we're going through that mark.
So yeah, if gear breaks, then you come up to that problem-solving thing. And I think again, if you've got one, make sure not everyone tries to solve the problem. Otherwise, you turn into the under-9 soccer team, and you're all on the problem. So make sure everyone stays in their position. Get some people to problem-solve what the problem is. And if you're the one on the helm, probably don't try and solve the problem, and don't be upset if it's solved differently the way that you would have done it.
The helm's calling release, and I'm saying it is released.
Yeah.
Except it's not just a twist knot in the block; it's a break on there.
A break, okay.
Which is to release the winch part of the design.
I had a Flinders Island race where
You took it out.
I was on the helm and we just kept rounding up and just wiping out, and I'm still called by that crew Wipeout Wilkins. And it turned out there was a flaw in the steering caps, and it was falling off, and it was only turning the rudder one way and not the other. But it took some time for that to be worked out. So, but yes. But again, once that happened, it was good having a crew where it was once it fully failed. Having people, someone got the head sail down. They kept the main up because we didn't want to start the motor, and everyone was doing things to problem solve. Not everyone was trying to get the emergency tiller in. So,
Who really trains their crew?
well,
Who goes out to quiet day and not racing?
Who goes out on the strong wind day? That's the training you needed for last webinar.
okay. And who gives safety briefings when crew come on board? So, yeah, good. So I think that's very key of making sure everyone knows, at least the rough parameters of how the boat's running. So, and I guess there's a whole bunch of safety things like training for man overboard and using that safety equipment and stuff like that. These are all good intentions that a lot of skippers have, myself included. Don't do it as often as we should do. So, so doing that sort of training is definitely well worth doing it.
I think with communication, it has to be good, clear communication.
I think that's one of the major
Yeah,
issues.
I was involved in an incident on a large boat, like the Catalina 36 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
So big and heavy, we were on port tack heading up to go around Sow and Pigs in one of those heavy nor'easters like today. And the skipper said, I can't steer. And we all just thought, okay, we need to ease the main. And so we used the main, so I can't steer. So we used the main some more. Next we need to let the wheel go and come up and threw it off. What he meant was the steering
It's broken.
and the wheel just goes round and round. And so I well, yeah. But by more luck than management, we managed to miss our peaks and we're halfway down to Nielsen Park before we get the emergency artillery to still handle that long, which needed 3 gorillas to actually operate.
Operate, yeah.
Or take the wheel off so you could use it.
Well, no, I just had a little cap.
Yeah, just saying, you take that off, sometimes it won't work because the wheel's in the way.
Oh, no, this was only that big. But it was very scary because he said, "I'll get ready to fend off." We're thinking, because the pillars are there.
Oh, right, yeah.
And we're thinking, like, you don't fend off a boat that big in this wing.
Mm.
You know?
Another thing is understanding what you can do with what on a boat in terms of fireworks. There's only one skipper that I've sailed, because I'm an observer on racing. There's one skipper I've sailed with who has played constantly or used constantly his backstay, and that's Phil Kessler on Checkmate.
Okay.
He constantly adjusts the backstay with best performance out of the boat. And some skippers do adjust their, a couple of other skippers I've sailed with have adjusted their backstay, but most don't.
Well, it depends. On some boats, it's a really good control. Like on a spree, it's not. I think there's other boats where it's a bigger effect, but still a decent effect. That guts coming, pull that backstay on, and so it's something you should experiment with. Because I often like saying to newbies on the boat that you got a triangular sail with 3 corners, but I think I've counted 13 different lines that change the shape of my mainsail. And so you've got a lot of degrees of freedom to change it, and getting it the right shape is so. It's not just about going fast. It is safe. I can't stand a flogging sail. It just unsettles the whole boat. You're going sideways. It breaks gear. It breaks people. Yeah. So keeping the boat under control is very key. All right. We've got no muffins. No tea. I badly organised this. Do we have any other horror stories of safety? Or can we call this I'll go get another good one.
Off the coast, going to the little bar of Cuckoo's Nest, they had the life rafts stored down below. They had those little things that explode when
Hydrostatic ones, yeah.
So much water down below, one went off. So we were all on our pipe burst. I was like, it exploded, set the life raft off, and all the pipe bursts started to get squashed up against the hull. Now those things have massive pressure. So all we didn't know what was going on until someone looked down below, they'll be suffocated, they'll be crushing. So we had to go down with the knife and just start killing the life raft. The claw had taken over the port side of the boat. And then let it down, let the guys out. We should have done that because we didn't have a life raft, second life raft, when we did it.
Yes.
So things like that can happen.
Do we share Bruce's life jacket story?
Oh, yeah, well, that's the same thing. One of the funniest things I've seen in my life is Bruce Davis putting his head through the lifelines and having his life jacket go and getting stuck. So it's just one of those little images seared in my retina, which I shall savour forever.
It's a lesson for everybody.
Yeah. All right, I think we'll call it then, unless there's any other safety tips. Great, thank you very much for coming. How do I...